Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you episode 181 here at the tavern, presented by Hirotaku.com. So, since last episode, we talked about the rumors regarding Q Ranger, specifically the rumors about how it's going to be a space themed Sentai series. I thought we'd go ahead and continue the space theme today and talk about something regarding Power Rangers in space. Seems like a worthy theme for a couple of episodes, maybe go into another one, who knows. But there has been something about Power Rangers in space that's been bugging me for years since I first heard it, and I just really want to kind of deconstruct it with you guys, walk through it, and talk about it, and just kind of give you guys my overall thoughts on how basically what I'm hearing could not have possibly been the truth, and explain to you guys why I believe that's the case. Okay, so let's start here. A lot of times in fan communities, when you don't have official sources coming from the production staff or the production company or anybody that's usually involved with the creation of the show, rumors are going to be made, assumptions are going to be made, and the danger of that is when the production company doesn't confirm or deny any of that, a lot of those rumors will stick, and that's what people are going to assume for a very long time, to the point where they're going to accept it as fact. Now, a basic example of this from the Power Ranger community is that regarding the metallic armor. Now, for those of you who don't remember, metallic armor was introduced in the third season of Mighty Morphin as basically a power upgrade for the Rangers. And all it was taking the typical spandex costumes and helmets that we've seen and giving them a glitter finish, like they were yachts, basically. Now, at the time, nobody understood why this was, and to my knowledge, and I've looked it up and I can't find anything official on this. And by official, I mean I don't see anything from Saban confirming or denying this. But what people have been saying for years is that the reason that they were given the metallic armor, which I will remind you serves no purpose in the story whatsoever, was it was an attempt to sell more of the leftover Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie chrome action figures. Because if you'll remember from the movie, they had the shiny chrome figures that you can go ahead and get. And this was apparently a marketing attempt to get people interested in the metallic armor to go out and buy the chrome figures. Now, this rumor doesn't make sense on a lot of levels, mainly because there's a difference between glitter and chrome, and if they were truly trying to do that, they would give us a chrome finish on the suits, or at least the helmets. But the point I'm getting at here is Saban. I have not found anything in Google searching, checking on Ranger Board and Ranger Wiki or anything. No, but I can't find any official source from Saban saying that this was the case. The writer hasn't come forward, the director hasn't come forward, the actors haven't said anything. This just seems to be something that people assume out there, and that people are running with, believing, yeah, that's why they did the metallic armor, so they could sell more of the leftover toys in the story. And people are accepting that. Heck, when I watched Linkara do his re-review of the history of Power Rangers, where he basically re-recorded his dialogue, and he added some new stuff, that's one of the things he added was about the metallic armor, that's what people were saying, is like, hey, we're adding the metallic armor to sell leftover toys. And what bugged me about that was there is no official source on it. There's nothing that I can absolutely find, and as a Power Rangers fan, if somebody asked me that, I would say, well, that's the rumor, but it has no basis in fact because nobody has said anything. Hence why we're going to talk about Power Rangers in space, because it seems that people are under the impression that Power Rangers in space is Power Rangers in space because there was a miscommunication in the early pre-production material for Megaranger. So this is how it goes. Basically, what people are saying is that when Saban got the early production materials for Megaranger, they got pictures of the suits, of the monsters, of the Zords, and all that. And they assumed from the early production material that Megaranger was going to be a space-based Sentai series. They was going to be based in outer space. They were going to have starships. They were going to travel to different planets and things like that. Probably what Q Ranger is going to be. And that's based on our assumptions at the moment. And because they assumed this, they decided to make the next season of Power Rangers in space. And it wasn't until they had already started production on Power Rangers in space that they came to the realization that Mega Ranger had absolutely nothing to do with space, but was about electronics and digital devices and so forth. So basically, what they're saying is they didn't understand what was going on with the Sentai footage. They made up their own junk and just kind of went with it. Now, I have not found anything online that presents this as a fact. This is something that's been a rumor. I haven't heard anything from any of the production teams, the writers, the actors. Nobody has said anything. Apparently, this is something that started maybe as a rumor, went around the internet, and now people cite it as fact. But I can't find any evidence of anybody actually saying this, that this was true. And people do believe it. But what always bothered me when I first heard about this is that when you actually stop to think about it, there is no way that this could be true. There is no way that Saban, even with some of the dumb decisions that they've made in their time, could mistake Mega Ranger for a space series. And I will explain to you why that is based on my own research that I have briefly done. Because you don't really need to have a lot of in-depth research to do any of this, simply because, well, it makes sense if you have all the pieces there in front of you, which Saban likely did at the time that this happened. Okay, so again, the whole rumor is predicated on the fact that the early production information was given to them and they showed the spaceships and everything. Okay, that's a fair enough point. That if you get, production stills and concept designs and they're all of spaceships, you're probably going to assume that there is a space-based theme to the series. Okay, that's fair enough right there. But consider that the name of the series is Denji Sentai Megaranger. Now, Denji, translated, depending on your source, of course, and I've looked up multiple different versions of this, Denji means electronic or electromagnetic. So first off, the title of the series doesn't even indicate that space is a thing, unless you consider electromagnetic as a spatial anomaly from like Star Trek or something like that. So I don't know how they could get it from the title of the series. Fair enough. But let's go into this little nugget of information. I'll have a link provided below for you guys to go ahead and take a look at this right here. Is that so Saban Entertainment actually had some memos that were released to the public a few years ago breaking down early production information for Power Rangers in space. Now, specifically, the information I'm going to be turning to, and again, you can download it to the link that I'll have in the comments section, is a memo from May 29th, 1997. Now, just to give you guys a timeline of that, this is about 2 months after Turbo Power Rangers movie was out. This is before we had the changeover in characters from Power Ranger, from Tommy to TJ and all that. But again, May 1997 is what we're looking at right now, and this is basically breaking down different elements of the show of whether they're going to use the Silver Ranger, who Dark Spectre is going to be, talking about the use of something called Power Dome that was never used, how they're not using Japanese footage for the villains, that they would be shooting their own footage, that they would limit the Mega Ranger footage to specifically the Zords and the monster fights. Now, this is actually quite amazing that this kind of thing got leaked onto the internet. I don't know if it's leaked, you want to call it, but the fact that it's even there is significant in my mind. But what's significant about this is that, look at the date is May 29th, 1997. Now, if you correlate that to what was happening at Megaranger at the time, Megaranger by May 29th had a total of 15 episodes that already aired in Japan. May 25th, 1997 is when episode number 15 aired, and then was in June that the following episode, episode 16, had aired. Now, what that means is that Saban, at this time in May, after the Turbo movie had completed, before any filming or casting or anything had been done for Power Rangers in Space, they had 15 episodes in which to look at for the series. Now, I haven't seen Megaranger at all, because I just haven't found the... Well, I found the subs, I just haven't got around to watching them because I got 15 other Sentai series I need to watch before that. But in my episode review with, or my interview that I had with Kevin Rubio, he states that he was given all the episodes to go ahead and watch, and that he did go ahead and watch some of them. But I would assume that if you're going to write this memo and say about what you are going to use and you're not going to use, kind of indicates to me that you've probably watched a couple of episodes to get an idea of what footage to be used. That would be my guess. So you're telling me that after watching 15 episodes by the date of May 29th, 1997, that the crew was under the impression this was a space-based series? I'm sorry, but if you watched 15 episodes of any series and you came to the opposite conclusion of what that show was about, then you're probably not paying attention. Let's take a look at ToQger, just as a brief example right here. If you watch 15 episodes of ToQger and you come back to your bosses and say, okay, so I watched 15 episodes of the series, I believe it's a show about boats. You've completely missed the point of what the show was, despite the fact that you actually watched it. So I would find it odd that they were able to write a memo, talk about what footage they want to go ahead and use, and somehow come to the conclusion after 15 episodes of watching footage that they still thought was a space-based series. Something else I want to bring to everybody's attention here is that, you could claim, oh, they watched the footage, but it wasn't in English or it wasn't subbed, so they couldn't tell what people were saying or what was going on. Okay, fair enough, but I would also imagine that if you watched it even without understanding what was going on in the dialogue, you would see that they did not leave Earth, that they would just go get their spaceships and then come back to the ground. That's kind of what actually happens in Megaranger. For that, I'm absolutely sure. But I would find it very peculiar that you have a company, Saban Entertainment at the time, that is producing a television show based on Japanese footage, and you wouldn't have somebody Japanese there to help you out. Because I'd imagine there's a position at Saban Entertainment where you have your liaison to Toei Entertainment, the person who's bilingual that can speak Japanese and English and talks to Toei and say, okay, that's what you got going on. Hi, I'll get it. No problem. And then they'll go to the Saban guys and say, okay, this is what they told me from Toei in Tokyo. This is what's going on. Yada, yada, yada. I'm sure you got at least one person whose job it is to talk with Toei and translate certain things to get certain things done. And it's Los Angeles people. At the time they were doing this, they were in Los Angeles. And there are a lot of Japanese people in Los Angeles. Plus, I would also imagine maybe you actually have somebody from Tokyo that was in Los Angeles, working for the company, working on behalf of Toei overseas. But I digress. I'm going a little too far into this. But don't you think that if they had somebody who was Japanese that did watch the episodes and maybe contacted Toei directly, that at some point if somebody said, okay, our next season, Power Rangers in space, that this particular person would go, why are you calling it Power Rangers in space? Well, because it takes place in outer space. Didn't you look at the pictures? Yeah, I looked at the pictures, but it's called Denji Sentai Megaranger, and it's based on gadgets and electronic devices. Did you guys not watch it? That conversation had to have happened. I mean, it's also... could you imagine the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and they wouldn't have somebody Japanese there to help explain the madness that they are watching, to help make sense of it? That's where I'm getting with this, folks, is that based on the title, based on the footage, and based on the common sense that they would have at least one Japanese person hired to translate Japanese things for them, in a city that has a lot of Japanese people, and you work closely with a company that is in Japan, you're telling me that somehow, some way, Saban screwed up to the point that they did not realize that Megaranger was not a space-based Sentai series? I don't accept that. I don't accept that as something that's logical. I don't accept that as something that did happen. When people are out there saying, yeah, well, the reason it's Power Rangers in space is because they didn't understand Mega Ranger. They thought it was a space-based series. To them, I would have to say, BS. Why? Why would they assume that? Because they have spaceships? Just because you assume that they have spaceships doesn't make it a space-based series. I mean, how many other times have we seen space-based vehicles, but it's not a space-based series? Heck, take a look at Ghostager, for example. They have a starship like Zord. Doesn't take place in outer space. Gokaiger, they're space pirates, but their spaceship is a pirate ship. I just don't understand how. Here's the thing. Let's assume for the moment that this is true. How the hell did they screw up that bad? Really? It's like watching ToQger and assuming that the show is about boats. There's no way you can screw that up. It's just not a thing that could happen. And if it did happen, then they're a lot dumber at Saban than I ever thought they were. That just doesn't make any sense. But if we assume that this is just a rumor, and I believe it is, how did it survive this long with people actually believing it? I mean, seriously, folks, for those of you who have heard this before and actually believed it, how could you have thought that? Because when you stop and think about it, with all the evidence I gave you, and it's very small evidence to be honest, but you don't need a lot to disprove it. It's just like it doesn't add up. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny when you put it under there. Because if somebody said, well, that's what they believed, well, then you got to give me the proof. You got to give me the evidence of that. And again, nobody's been able to manufacture that. The closest I've gotten to any production information, again, is the stuff I just read to you guys. And at nowhere does it actually say that it is a space-based Sentai series. Again, they have the names in there. They have footage of the ships and whatnot. But you can't tell me that they just looked at the photos, that they didn't watch the episodes in some way. Because again, if you have a breakdown of footage and you talk about what's going to be acceptable to use and what's not going to be acceptable to use, then there's no way you can get around that. I think, however this rumor got started, it's an obvious lie. It's like Scorpion Rain. At least Scorpion Rain has a air of believability to it in certain aspects. But it's BS at the end of the day, much the same way this is. Now, if there is an official source out there, if, Saban or Levy or anybody comes out and says, oh, absolutely, this is what happened, and we'll explain it to you step by step, then I'll listen, and if I'm convinced, I'm convinced. But right now, when we have no evidence of the fact, and nobody has stepped forward about it, I can't accept it. I really can't. Because there are times that Sentai, here's the thing. Saban has muddled in Sentai and changed it to their liking, Power Ranger Samurai being a prime example of that. But there's no way that, again, here's the thing. It's like you watch Shinkanger and then Saban comes on and says, okay, we watched all the Shinkanger episodes, so we're going to adapt Samurai Sentai Shinkanger into Power Rangers Chinese Dragon Force. Or something stupid like that. That's kind of the thing. Is like, you weren't doing your job if you missed something that is blatantly obvious, is what I'm saying. So I guess this is kind of a cautionary tale to anything you hear out there, is that if you hear a rumor about something, particularly about the production of Power Rangers, really stop and think about it, do a little bit of research, and just kind of realize that that couldn't have happened. And having those rumors out there is kind of dangerous, because honestly, folks, if you went to a non-Power Ranger fan, you kind of explained what I explained to you about, what people believed. Oh, Power Rangers became a space series because they misunderstood this, and you have an outsider listen to it, they're like, well, how'd they screw that up? It just doesn't make us look good. It doesn't look Saban look good. It just, the whole rumor really makes people look like a bunch of idiots when honestly, I don't think that was the case at all. Most likely, they saw that it was a digital theme Sentai. It was the last season. They wanted to go all out. Maybe they thought going into space would be something that they could do that'd be a lot more interesting. Because I do think the space thing was a conscious choice to change it from what Megaranger had, as opposed to a misunderstanding. So my belief is they saw the footage, they knew what was going on, but they're like, they got spaceships, let's tweak this a little bit so we can turn it into a space series and avoid the whole internet and digital theme thing. That's probably the most likely scenario of what happened, and there seems to be more evidence for that because, again, it just makes more sense, more common sense, if you will. So yeah, that's all I really kind of got. Again, this has been on my mind for a while, and I just really haven't said anything up until now. But yeah, that's what I think really happened. I want to know what you guys think. Again, look at the materials down below to get a little bit more information on it. Um, but yeah, that's dispelling Power Ranger rumors. Much in the same way I did with the Sabrina Liu interview. We cleared up a couple of issues regarding her appearances in the series, and I'd like to think we cleared up a couple of things here by just, again, walking through it and breaking it down. Well, that's all I got for you guys, so I want to thank you all for listening tonight, and until next time, the tavern is now closed.